Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Dylan Rockford. He does such excellent work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're going to be chatting it up with him in terms of everything that we've got here in these game number 3s, how he's taking a look at some of the teams with the buys, how he's been playing the postseason thus far, and if there might be any value out there on the futures market. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. With EdgeBoost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and over at EdgeBoost.bet, utilize that promo code of GREG, G-R-E-G. That gets you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball with these Game 2s on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Well, we certainly have seen a lot of unders in baseball, and if you had the under in this game, man, this was rough. If you got in on the 7, you were able to get a push, but you had a 6.5. The Guardians, they put up a 5 spot in the 8th inning. They force a Game 3 as they get the job done against the Detroit Tigers by a count of 6-1. As for the Tigers, they leave 15 men on base, and they go 1 of 15 with men in scoring position. Tanner Bybee dodged a lot of bullets, 4 2/3 innings, allows 1 run. From there, Eric Zabrowski, a scoreless inning. Hunter Gaddis, Tim Aaron, Jacob Junis, I'll give you a pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Cade Smith, he finishes off the 8th and 9th innings, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels, and Casey Mize lifted after he gave up a solo home run to George Valero, first home run of the postseason for Valero and just a third of the season for him overall. He gave up just that 1 hit, and he gets yanked from there. You had Tyler Holton give you 2 1/3 inning squirrels. Kyle Finnegan 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. And Troy Melton, well, he melted. He does give up a home run in this one to Brian Rocchio. For Rocchio, not necessarily too much of a home run hitter. 4 runs allowed in a third of inning. And Brant Herter, he would also give up a home run to Josh Naylor. That was a 3-run shot, and that was with some inherited men on base. So he was only charged with 1 earned run. But for the Guardians, they do force that all-decisive gain number 3, and so do the San Diego Padres. The Padres get the job done 3-0 against the Cubs. They expended quite a bit of the bullpen as well. Dylan Cease pulled after 69 pitches, really didn't look too ineffective. 3 hits, 5 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings, but from there, Audrey Morejon, 2 1/3 innings squirrels. Mason Miller, he faced 5 batters and he got 5 strikeouts, and then Robert Suarez, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Andrew Kittredge, the opener, does allow a run, so that plan backfired a little bit for the Cubs. From there, Shota Imanaga in essentially long relief, 2 runs allowed in 4 innings, giving up a home run to Manny Machado, his first of the postseason. From there, Caleb Thielbar and Michael Soroka, a pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Taylor Rogers, a scoreless inning, and Colin Ray says hit by Beret to a scoreless inning. And then for the Yankees, they find a way against the Boston Red Sox, 4-3 the final. As for the Red Sox, they were able to get a home run off the bat of Trevor Story off of Carlos Rodon in the 6th inning. For Rodon, he was able to fill 6 innings, giving up 3 runs, and that's big because the Red Sox really dove into their bullpen in game number 2. Brian Bayo, he was lifted after just 2 1/3 innings. He does give up a home run to Ben Rice, and Then from there, you had Justin Wilson get 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, Justin Slayton a pair of outs, he allows a run, Steven Matz was able to end a scoreless inning, and you had Zach Kelly and Peyton Tolley both giving out of the bullpen scoreless as well. But Garrett Whitlock, they required 47 pitches out of him. He gives up an Austin Wells RBI single. That turned out to be the difference in the game. And for the New York Yankees, Steven Cruz, Devin Williams, David Benar, they do not poop the Benar. They all lend scoreless innings. And then in the nightcap, the Dodgers were able to get it done against the Reds by a count of 8-4 to be the lone team to sweep their series, as Yoshinobu Yamamoto, a little bit of turbulence in the first inning, gives up 2 unearned runs. He was hurt by a trio of errors out there in the field. From there, you did have Emmett Sheehan give up 2 runs in a third of inning, but Blake Tryon and Alex Vesia, they combined for 3 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Roki Sasaki's been very good since they put him in the bullpen. A scoreless inning, and Zach Littell, well, he came up little in terms of length, giving up 3 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Nick Lodolo, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Nick Martinez, well, the floodgates open on him. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, as for the LA Dodgers, they were really able to explode in that 6th inning. They entered by a count of 3-2 up in that inning. They closed that inning up by a count of 7-2 as they put up a 5-spot Tony Santillan. He gave up a run in an inning, and Chase Burns does get 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but for the Dodgers, they go 6 of 18 with runners in scoring position, and that was the main over that you did see in terms of closing numbers. You also got the over in the Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers game. If you took a 6.5, if you took a 7, you were able to get a push. A lot of places did close at a 7, so in a lot of cases, you had 1 over, 2 unders, and a push. Some places, you had 2 overs and 2 unders, but certainly the favorites, they were able to clean up on this day with the lone underdog being able to come through the San Diego Padres, much like we saw in baseball on Tuesday. The lone underdog that came in there was the Boston Red Sox. So that's where we're all getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Wild Card Wednesday. Coming next, we're going to take a look at the 3 games that we've got for Thursday and the overall playoff picture with Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'll look next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VC Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Dylan Rockford aboard. He does such an amazing job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love, baseball. I know he does a great job on the UFC front with Axe Kicks Picks. He's doing an amazing job looking at football as well. He covers a little bit of everything, and he does so also well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Rock with 2Ks, the number 24 altogether. And Dylan, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Good to be with you. No better time than October in playoff baseball.
No better time indeed. And Dylan, how are you taking a look at these playoffs right now? Because it feels like the big theme has been, unless if you were the LA Dodgers and Cincinnati Reds on Tuesday, has been lots of unders thus far.
A lot of unders so far this season, and you know why? Because it's getting cold out there. Wind is blowing in as well, especially in Wrigley Field. So we've been seeing a lot of unders there. What a tough break for the under in Game 2 for the Tigers and the Guardians. The Guardians unloaded on the 8th. I mean, if you had the under in Game 2, you're on the right side. That's just a bad break. And a lot of pitching, a lot of short leashes as well. I mean, we're recording this the day before, but even with Alex Cora, he got rid of Brian Bello very quick. He didn't want the game to get out of control really quick. So a lot of quick changes with pitching, and a lot of bullpens have been doing really good, especially Cleveland, San Diego, Boston. They've been doing really good. Outside of the Dodgers and the Yankees, thank God the Dodgers had a big lead. Outside of that, a lot of bullpens have been doing pretty well. So I think that's a credit to a lot of the unders so far.
Yeah, very interesting that Dylan Cease was pulled after 3 2/3 innings, but the bullpen there for the San Diego Padres was able to hold down the fort. And how do you take a look at them in game number 3 against the Chicago Cubs, as it will be Jameson Taillon going for them up against Yu Darvish, and Cubs on an initial opener are a slight favorite, and that total 7.5, but you know as well as I do that Wrigley Field wind always plays a factor, and this might change by the time this uploads, but looks like that wind is going to be blowing out quite a bit on Thursday.
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking at it now. There are winds blowing out, and obviously things could change, but good win for the Padres. They forced a Game 3. Manny Machado finally woke up. He had a really good game. but I still think the Cubs are the better team. Jameson Taillon, he's going to get the start for the Cubbies, and I think he's been solid at home for them this season. He really finished the season strong as well. He's given up less than 2 runs in 7 straight games. They're solid at home when he's on the mound. They're 5-1 in his last 6 home starts. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yu Darvish is going for the Padres, and I just think, in my opinion, he's a complete fade for me on the road. 7.26 ERA on the road this season for Darvish. Batters hitting over 270 off of him as well. He's given up 3+ runs on the road in 5 of his last 7 road starts. If the Padres can't get him run support, you mentioned them pulling Dylan Cease early, and he really wasn't struggling. If he even gives up 2-3 runs, I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep him in as well. So I just don't see how the Padres win this game. They're only averaging 4.13 runs per game on the road. To be honest, I think the Cubs bullpen has kind of looked better as well, I mentioned. So it's a coin flip. My numbers actually made the Cubs a -135 favorite. So I'm seeing a -110. I'll take the home team here in kind of a coin flip game.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I'm going to be looking at the Cubs on the money line. I have not liked the form of Yu Darvish all season long, so we are in lockstep on that one. And then when it comes to this Tigers versus Guardians game, we do have a total of 7, and I mentioned it, we have not seen any run scoring with regards to the Cleveland Guardians, aside from that 8th inning. I do think that was a little bit of a one-off, though, and when it comes to Jack Flaherty versus Slade Cecconi, neither of these guys have been amazing this year, but how do you look at this one with the Guardians? A very slim favorite of about -110.
Yeah, I mean, do or die game. -110 for the Guardians. Even money here for the Tigers. I see even 7.5s out there. I think a 7.5 is kind of too high. Like you said, outside of the 8th inning, there should have been 2-0 towards the under. So I probably would lean towards the under here for the total, but as for the side, I like the Guardians here at home just because of the inconsistency. We talked about it with Yu Darvish just a minute ago, but same thing with Jack Flaherty. He's 0-3 versus Guardians team, 3.94 ERA. And he's lost back-to-back starts versus this team as well coming into the postseason. But both of those games did go under the total. So still low-scoring games. Walks continue to be an issue for him as well. The Tigers, they have left a lot of guys on base in this series. That is very worrisome for this club. So we saw it in the 8th inning, what this Guardian offense could do when they break open. And I just trust them a little more here at home. So I eventually think they're going to have some luck here like we saw in the 8th inning. So again, I made them a -120 favorite, Guardians here at home. Slade Cecconi worries me a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got pulled early. I like the under 7.5, even a 7. My total came out to 6.6. I like the under, and I also like the Guardians here at home.
Yep, with the Guardians, they're a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home, but that bullpen has been so good for them.
Yeah.
So even if Slade Cecconi struggles a little bit, they can rely upon those guys to be able to hold down the fort, as we do have Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, and I am not anticipating a Game 3 in Dodgers versus Reds. We do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, so we had to record this in advance, but I don't think that Zach Littell is going to be able to get the job done. But how do you take a look at the Dodgers prospects moving forward? Because I think that it is really interesting to take a look at what we're going to be getting in the divisional round. Those teams with the byes over the last few years, aside ironically enough from the Dodgers, have really struggled, and I think that this is a team that perhaps playing in this wild card round, it might be a blessing in disguise for them, and I do think that they have the propensity to be able to make a run.
100%. On a little side note, I'm actually kind of glass half full. I'm kind of glad the Mets didn't make the playoffs because they would have ran into this buzzsaw of a Dodger team, but I agree. I don't think we're going to see a Game 3 here. I think the magical quote-unquote run for the Reds is going to come to an end, but I agree. We saw it last year with this Phillies team. They had a bye, and the Mets took advantage of that. It's a hotter team, and we usually see this in the divisional round. Teams who come into the series, and I kind of worry about the Mariners. Them and the Guardians were kind of one of the hottest teams coming into the postseason. They got a bye, and now, depending on who they'll play, I worry if some of the momentum has kind of died down for this team. I love the pitching, but we will see how this team ends up doing. But I do worry about the Mariners. I worry about the Phillies. I worry about the Toronto Blue Jays because I honestly think both of those teams, Boston and Yankees, are better than the Toronto Blue Jays. I worry about the Yankees bullpen, but I worry about a lot of those teams. I don't worry about Milwaukee because I do think regardless of who comes out, I do think they'll be able to advance to the championship round. But yeah, those are the 3 teams I am really worried about.
Absolutely. I do think that there is very rightful worry with those teams as well. And I do think that with regards to what we might be able to get from the Yankees and or the Red Sox, that's interesting. We are doing this as that game is a little bit up in the air. But in a game three, we know that we would be getting Cam Schlittler for the New York Yankees. If he doesn't go in game three, you have to bank on him probably going in game number one. But how do you look at this Yankees team moving forward if they are able to get the job done against Boston? Because they needed this game on Wednesday to be able to advance. And if the Red Sox are able to advance as well, I think whichever team, honestly, advances out of this series is a team that is a force to be reckoned with in the American League.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And they have the momentum right now. And I think offensively, they could compete with anyone in this American League, whoever comes out of this series. I like Cam Slater. I like him actually better on the road. If I'm being honest, I think his road numbers are better. He hasn't versed Boston this year, but he's done pretty good. He'll give up 1 to 2 runs here and there. Walks can be an issue for him, but I think he'll be fine. But I like the Red Sox. I just think they're a better team, and they should have won game one. I mean, Garrett Crochet and Max Fried were just going back and forth dueling. I mean, on his 117th pitch, he threw 100 miles an hour. It was insane. You got to feel for Max Fried because he did amazing, and then the bullpen, per usual, that was one of our biggest concerns going into the postseason, was this bullpen for the Yankees. So it was tough. I don't understand why they didn't start Jazz Chisholm or at least Ben Rice. They had to get at least some offense to the plate. Paul Goldschmidt, he was kind of slow going into the play in the late innings for that Yankee club. So it was a head scratcher from Boone, which isn't surprising at that point. But I like the Red Sox here to advance into the divisional round against the Blue Jays, and I also like them against the Blue Jays.
Yep, and I do think that that is going to be a fun series to be taking a look at as well, because with the Toronto Blue Jays, I think regardless of if they go up against the Yankees or the Boston Red Sox, they might have some issues, because I just am not really feeling that bullpen for one, and two, the Bo Bichette injury, I think is one that's very much worth noting for the Toronto Blue Jays team as well.
100%. I mean, Bo Bichette is a huge part of their lineup, and especially defensively as well. So that's very worrisome. Red Sox versus the Blue Jays, they have their number as well. So I would worry about that as well. And I just think offensively, I don't know if the Blue Jays are going to be able to compete, because it seems like Boston has timely hit after timely hit. So I worry about that, and we've seen how good that bullpen has been for the Boston Red Sox. I mean, bases loaded last night, 0 outs. Chapman was still able to get through that. So that speaks volumes here. That's a lot of confidence moving forward if they're able to get past the Yankees.
Yep, I agree with you, and I do want to just ask you about this as well.
Yeah.
Have there been any futures that you've been taking a look at in terms of the baseball playoffs, or have you been going much more game to game? Because I do think that especially in the wild card round, it's hard to be taking a lot of futures with regards to best of three, and I just have found this entire baseball season is really murky. I could see the Dodgers going on a burner run. I think this actually might be the most valiant that they have all season long in the futures market, but that said, it just feels like a year in which game to game is going to be rewarding people a lot more, just because we don't have those big underdogs like in years past.
Yeah, I think I was on your pod maybe a few months ago, maybe earlier in the season, where I think I said I'm not much of a future guy. I don't like tying my money up, even if it is just for the month, or for that matter, a few months in earlier in the season. I don't like tying my money up, but I did put a little pizza bet. I put on the Mariners as well as the Dodgers. So those are the two tickets I have, one for the American League and one for the National League. But that's about it. But I agree to your point. In the long run, you'll make more money game to game wise, which is what I do.
Absolutely. And Dylan, I know that you're doing a great job over there at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I know you're doing absolutely amazing work taking a look at the fight front and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you guys can follow me over on X/Twitter at Rock with 2Ks24. And yeah, it's going to be a loaded weekend. We got UFC 320, BKFC 82 in Newark Prudential Center. I'll be there for that. We got college football, NFL Week 5. We're locked and loaded, and like I said, there's nothing better than playoff baseball, so I'll be locked and loaded on my phone with that as well. So, Greg, like you know, the grind never stops.
Absolutely, and I know that Dylan is doing such a great job taking a look at this amazing game of baseball, and every single time he joins me on such great insight. So big thanks to Dylan for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by our guy, Dylan Rockford, who does such a great job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights and did so once again today. So a big thanks to Dylan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday. And thankfully, we do have quite a few Game 3s on this Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1. Easy enough, we're going to be going in time order. Initially doing this recording as we've got 3 Game 3s. If the Reds actually do pull this off, you'll get a 4th one, but that said, how about if we just go down the list in order and get you guys some winners? 909, 910 on the card is how we start things off. The Detroit Tigers are on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Slade Sissoni goes for Cleveland. Captain Jack Flaherty goes for Detroit. Detroit a small underdog of between -101 to -107, -110 to -115. That number on Detroit. 7 is the total. Over and under anywhere between -105 to a -115. And I did set my total at a 6.8. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under for this Guardians team. They're only averaging about 3.8 runs per game at home. That is bottom 3 in all of baseball. We did see that nice explosion in the 8th inning, but still they were able to generate 6 runs on 6 hits. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be sustainable, as for the bottom of the lineup for the Cleveland Guardians just leaves a lot of something to be desired, though. You were able to get a home run from George Valera, who did come on a little bit strong towards the final week or two of the season. He's going to be a big player for them, but it's at the likes of CJ Kayfus, Bo Naylor, along with Daniel Schneemann, a lot of guys for this team that just have been hitting at 225 or lower overall for the season. Steven Kwan at the top has been very rock solid, hitting at 275, and Kyle Manzardo, though overall for the season only hitting like a 235, he's been able to supply a lot of boom, as well as this guy has been able to give you over 25 home runs. Jose Ramirez, obviously he does a great job moving the line, 30 home runs, he's been able to get on base all throughout the series. And for Detroit, you just have a little bit more lineup balance with this team, as Riley Green during the season had 34 to 35 home runs, hitting at 260. Spencer Torkelson over 30 home runs, give you over a 330 on base. Gary Carpenter has been a big part of this lineup. He has been rock solid there, and for the Tigers, I do anticipate them going better than 1 of 15 with 15 men left on base yesterday with runners in scoring position. They were 1 of 15. They've got Gleyber Torres, who's done a nice job in terms of moving the line. Wencio Perez has been about a 245, 250 hitter all season long. Not a bunch of wallopers other than really Riley Green along Spencer Torkelson, but just guys that are able to get on base. And for the Detroit Tigers, this has been a little bit of a work in progress bullpen, and they did have to use up Kyle Finnegan and Troy Mountain for some good innings yesterday, so that's a little bit of an issue for this team. But John Brebbia has been pretty rock solid in this bullpen, and for Jack Flaherty, he's got a lot of big time experience in these sorts of spots. Now, for Jack Flaherty, it has not necessarily been the world's greatest season for him, mainly because he has been giving up 1.3 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings. But if you do take a look at the ERA for him, it's hovering right around about 4.65. That fielding independent is more in the 3.8 range, as he has still been able to get over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Slade Sissoni, 4.30 ERA, but he does have a 4.64 fielding independent because he has had a little bit of an issue giving up the deep ball. 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. Now he's only giving up about 2.2 walks per 9, so he's been able to do a nice job of reducing on that, but he's not too much of a swing and miss guy, which means that the ball is going to be in play a little bit more. So some of the lack of luck that the Detroit Tigers had with men in scoring position, that could come back to bite him in this tournament. For Sissoni, he's actually got bad home and road splits. At home, he's been giving up over 1.75 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.78 ERA compared to a 3.75 ERA away from home, but he is backed up by a bullpen that has been in the top 3 in the big leagues all season long in terms of ERA. They have had to use Cade Smith in back-to-back days. They've used quite a bit of Hunter Gaddis in this series, but they still have quite a few bullets in the chamber. You only used up Jacob Junis for like 12 pitches yesterday. Eric Sabrowski, those two guys have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. So I do think that this is going to be a well-pitched game. I did set my total at 6.8. I like the under, but with the Tigers, set them as a -112 favorite. Going to be trusting in them on the money line. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The San Diego Padres on the road against the Chicago Cubs. Jamison Taillon is on the bump for the Cubs, and Yu Darvish goes for the Padres. Total on this game is 7.5. The over and the under anywhere between -105 to a -115, and Cubs are between -110 to -118 favorites. Between +101 to -110 is that number on the Padres, and I'm actually setting a total of a 9.1, which is a very aggressive total here, but that's because the wind is going to be blowing out on this day. It looks like right around about 6 or so miles per hour. It's going to start out blowing out very heavily with regards to the direction, and then it's going to be a little bit more directional towards back half of the game, but that should be helping out the hitters. And you've got a pair of guys that just have not necessarily been great at keeping the ball in the yard all season long. For you, Darvish, just not characteristic of what you expect out of him this season. A 5.38 ERA. He's been giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, 8.5 strikeouts per 9. That's pretty much a career low for him. Comes in a little bit of better form. 300 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 starts, but he's really had some struggles even when he's been in San Diego, which is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. And then for Jameson Taillon, he comes in actually in really good form, a combined 8 runs allowed over the course of his last 7 starts, but he still has given up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. He's not a strikeout guy, only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.68 ERA compared to a 4.66 fielding dependent overall for the season. Now, I am going to be willing to back him in this spot, as I did set the Cubs money line at a minus 126. As for the San Diego Padres, they did have to dive pretty deep into that bullpen yesterday. Now, you still have so many guys that you're able to throw out there. They did have to use up Mason Miller and Adrian Morejon for 27 plus pitches, but you still should be able to have Robert Suarez good to go for this game. David Morgan, guys like that have been able to give you sub 3.25 ERA. Wandy Peralta has still been relatively solid, and for the Padres, they are 23rd in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home, only about 4.1 to 4.2 runs per game, though Gavin Sheets has been able to give you 19 home runs, hitting over 250 for the season. Getting back Xander Bogaerts is big, as he's been able to do a nice job finding a way on here in this series. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., a combined 52 home runs from those two guys during the regular season, both hitting above at 260. Luis Arias, he's not going to give you a ton of power, but finds a way on base. And Ramon Laureano along with Ryan Hearn, good pickups at the trade deadline. Pair of guys give you over 340 on base. Laureano over 20 home runs, big for a team that hasn't cranked out the deep ball too much. And for the Cubs, they really did find their mojo towards back half of the season with their offense. Obviously did not pan out yesterday, but Seiya Suzuki, he's got something like 3 home runs in his last 6 games, so he's getting back online. Getting back Kyle Tucker, a guy who overall for the season has a 370 on base, is big. Nico Horner, since the All-Star break, is hitting above a 320. You saw Pete Armstrong give you 30 plus home runs, so obviously had a second half swoon, but Matt Shaw, for everything that Crow Armstrong has not done in the second half of the season, he's been able to improve upon as well. And for the Chicago Cubs team, they did mix and match quite a bit in the bullpen yesterday, but you should have the likes of A. Taylor Rogers, Caleb Theobar good to go. They were utilized for 15 pitches or less. Daniel Palencia, Drew Pomeranz, these are guys that have been able to supply you with a sub 3.25 ERA for the season, and I just flat out trust and tie on a little bit more here. Semi-total 9.1, like the over, and the Cubs up to a minus 125 on the money line. And we wrap things up with 9:13, 9:14 on the card. The Boston Red Sox are on the road against the New York Yankees. Cam Schlittler goes for the Yankees. Connolly early in a battle of rookies for the Red Sox. Right now with the Yankees are between minus 153 to a minus 162 favorite. Between plus 126 to a plus 140 is that number on Boston, with a total of 7.5, overs minus 120 and the unders even. Seeing a few straight 8s with an under minus 120 and the over at even. I set my total between A and B. I set my total at 7.8. I personally would rather have the 7.5 over rather than the 8 under, mainly because you got 2 rookies pitching in a winner-take-all game, and this is going to be a case where the nerves, I think, is going to be getting to both of these guys. Now, with Connolly early, he has dazzled in his small sample size at the big league level, but in 4 of his starts, 3 of them were against sub-500 teams. The strikeout stuff is amazing. 29 strikeouts in 19 and a third innings. Has yet to give up a home run in his big league career. 4 walks in those 19 and a third innings. But again, now you're going up to the big time. Who knows how much length he's going to be able to give. And the Red Sox really did have to burn up quite a bit of that bullpen yesterday as well. So that leaves you a little bit nervous there. Now you should have Aroldis Chapman all good to go in this one. And someone like Zach Kelly only threw 6 pitches yesterday. Peyton Tolley, he should be good to go in this one as well. And you've had Justin Slayton, Steven Matz, Justin Wilson, all these guys mix and match. A lot of those guys use like 18 to 24 pitches in a winner-take-all game. I think that these guys are all going to be good to go. And for the Boston Red Sox, Masataka Yoshida has really been able to pick it up, hitting above a 300 over the last 28 days dating back to the regular season. Rami Gonzalez has been able to hit a 300, but you don't necessarily have a lot of pop with regards to home run ball. Wilder Abreu along Trevor Story both had 20-plus home runs during the regular season, and Story was able to go deep yesterday. Obviously, Alex Bregman has been a little bit down with the power, 18 home runs this season, but still giving you about a 360 on base, but have a lot of guys moving line. And for the Yankees, we all know about the home run power that this team has. Aaron Judge has come up small well oftentimes in the postseason, but I mean, here in this series, a 500 on base, so far so good. I recognize that he doesn't have a home run, but you can't really knock him too much. Ben Rice was able to come up with a home run yesterday. They finally put Jazz Chisholm back in the lineup yesterday. Very good there. Even though he didn't get a hit, he was able to produce a run for the team. Trent Grisham, he's had over 30 home runs this season. The big thing for the Yankees is his bullpen, as David Bednar has really been the lone reliable guy for this team. He was able to pitch a scoreless inning yesterday, but they've had to use him in back-to-back days. Luke Weaver just has not been himself since coming off the injury list, so that's been a little bit of an issue. He gave up quite a few runs in game number 1. Now they're trotting out their Will Warren from the bullpen as well, but I do think that Cam Schlittler is going to be able to give you the better start here, even though for Cam Schlittler, you take a look at that ERA of a 2.96, the fielding independent is quite a bit higher because he has been giving up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings, and the 3.8 walks per 9 innings, that's a little bit unsightly as well, but this is another good strikeout artist, about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he comes in having allowed a combined 5 runs over the course of his last 4 starts. I do think that the Yankees get to early, and I do think that they get the job done against a bullpen that, for the Red Sox, has been in the top 4 in the big leagues in terms of ERA all season, but was very much taxed in game number 2. So, semi-total 7.8, I'd like the 7.5 over. I'm not going to go run line with the Yankees just because this is a winner-take-all game, and it can be a little bit of a roll of the dice. I set the money line at a minus 158, so going to be looking at the Yankees money line to go along with the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Dylan Rockford. He does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from his fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, or what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'll be with you guys every single day throughout the postseason on this podcast. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.